Tonight, a report questions the feasibility of Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro's expansion plans and how that would impact your power bill. Also ahead,
it's never been easier to quench your thirst in Wabana.
We're very happy to announce that the Canadian drinking water guidelines have been met in this area.
I'm Madison Taylor, and I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
this province has the highest rates of medically complex children in the country. Find out how a big new study could help them.
This is a uniform that one of the volunteers would have worn back for the 1977 Canada Games, but it's also an important part of one family's history and love story. We'll tell you how two volunteers met, fell in love, and started a family.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan. For decades, some people haven't been able to drink their tap water on Bell Island. But last night, for 150 people, that all changed. Here and Now's Madison Taylor reports.
The town of Wabana has been under a boil water advisory for the past 25 years. But from today, many more residents can now have clean water straight from the tap.
Once described as the colour of Pepsi, water now flows clean and clear for more residents of Wabana on Bell Island. This week, Mayor Philip Tobin announced that 150 more households now have access to safe water.
We're very happy to announce that finally we can Canadian drinking water guidelines have been met in this area.
Announced at a volunteer appreciation dinner in the town hall on Wednesday night, the community's response has been electric.
It was overwhelming. The applause, the ovation, the people that stood up and clapped for this, to understand what we've been working for and striving for quite some time now. It's possible. Now people realize what we're striving for and how we got here, and we're continuing to move on to the next phase.
This progression marks phase 3 of a larger plan that hopes to give 100% of Wabana residents access to clean tap water in the coming years. Access to clean water in their homes is a huge step forward for residents of areas like the Green and the Valley. For Linda Spencer, a long-time resident of the Valley, access to water wasn't always easy, relying on deliveries.
It was difficult because I'm elderly and my husband passed away, and it was difficult to get water.
Wednesday's announcement was met with excitement from folks in Wabana.
Oh my, the run went up. People just couldn't believe it. I mean, it means a lot because there's a lot of elderly out on the Green and elderly in the Valley, you know. And it's not always easy to go get water, you know. You got a vehicle is good, but you don't have a vehicle, what do? You gotta wait for someone to bring it to you.
But no more waiting now.
No more waiting. Waiting is over. Oh my goodness. A dream come true, really. As I said, I couldn't believe it when I came out.
This is a big step forward for a lot of people in this community. But the job is not done. The mayor says it'll be another 3 to 4 years before you can do this in every household. Madison Taylor, CBC News, Wabana.
A new independent report is questioning the cost and timelines of a major expansion proposed by Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. The Crown Corporation says the projects will cost nearly $2 billion and increase electricity production on the island. But the report warns that Hydro could be overestimating future electricity demand, leaving ratepayers with a larger bill than necessary. Patrick Butler has the details.
Hydro says even its most conservative estimate shows electricity demand on the island will increase 160 megawatts by 2035. And with that deadline in mind, it's proposing 2 major builds. First, a new standalone diesel turbine on the Avalon, and second, an 8th generating unit at the existing Baie-des-Speyres hydro dam. Consultants Bates White say they're convinced new generation is indeed needed on the island, and that Hydro needs to replace aging assets like the Holyrood thermal generating station. But they're also worried those so-called conservative projections are in fact overblown, and that Hydro is building too much, too fast. The consultants say they don't understand why the new combustion turbine and the 8th generating unit need to come online in 2031. They say not staggering the projects adds $200 million to the total bill. The consultants also worry that the new Bay d'Espoir unit won't add as much capacity to the grid as expected, given a potential lack of water resources and a possible transmission bottleneck limiting how much power can make it to the Avalon. Hydro stands by its plan. It says it's working on the Bay d'Espoir transmission problem, but the solution isn't known, nor is the cost of that fix, which will likely drive the total project's price tag above $2 billion. Patrick Butler, CBC News, St. John's.
Meanwhile, Hydro-Quebec has a new president and CEO. Claudine Bouchard will replace Michael Sabia, who is stepping down from the role to lead the Privy Council office in Ottawa. Bouchard has been working with Hydro-Quebec for more than 25 years and has been playing a major role in the Churchill Falls MOU talks with this province. She'll take on her new role as CEO on Saturday. In a statement, Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro CEO Jennifer Williams says she's proud to have worked with Sabia over the past 2 years, and the change in CEO will not impact the MOU. Well, a new 10-year research study will explore the health and well-being of children in this province. Quality of Care NL says it will be analyzing the medically complex needs of youth born between 2013 and 2022. The CBC's Jenna Head reports.
With high rates of medically complex children in the province, Quality of Care NL is launching the Beacon study. Researchers will be doing a deep dive on children's health care in Newfoundland and Labrador.
The primary purpose of this study is to carry out a 10-year longitudinal cohort study to help determine the epidemiology of children at risk and to determine the health and social services that are necessary to meet the needs of infants, children, and youth in Newfoundland and Labrador.
This province has the highest rate of children and youth with complex health needs. In February 2022, Newfoundland and Labrador sat 53% higher than the nation average, and Janeway pediatricians say cases are rising.
I'm not sure if it's a change or if that we're able to capture that data better. So complex medical patients in pediatrics are those that have either multiple medical conditions or maybe developmental or mental health conditions or a complex medical condition like cancer, which is the area that I work in.
The Beacon study considers children at risk if they are placed in alternate care, have medical complexities, or developmental and mental health conditions. While the study will take 10 years to complete, updates will come along in phases, with recommendations Bose hopes the government will implement.
So I think the government has made an effort to listen to what our lived experiences are as child health providers, and I think they really are, adjusting their approach to care for kids in Newfoundland. And we know that those kids are more vulnerable in terms of healthcare needs and outcomes, and this study will help us identify what the gaps are so that we can develop new programming and pathways to care.
The cohort being studied includes all babies born between January 1st, 2013 and December 31st, 2022. 40,000 of those children were born with medically complex needs. Findings of this study will help improve services for children in this province. Jenna Head, CBC News, St. John's.
The St. John's Regional Fire Department is changing the way it tells the public about fire risk. The fire department will no longer be issuing its own fire advisories, things like a ban on outdoor fires. Instead, from now on, people need to check the Department of Forestry's provincial fire hazard map. Let's show you how that works. The map shows the risk of a fire on a scale from low to extreme. As of today, the map is a mix of low to very high. The areas at low risk are marked in blue and moderate in green. That means that fires are allowed, but you may need a permit. Outdoor wood-burning appliances, propane fires, and barbecues are also allowed. When the risk goes to high, it's shown in yellow. Open fires are not allowed, but you can still use propane and charcoal barbecues, as well as wood and propane burning appliances. When there's a very high or extreme fire risk, that's shown in orange and red. That means no open fires at all, and you also can't use an outdoor wood-burning appliance, but you can still use an outdoor propane fire pit and barbecues using propane. And even though the St. John's Regional Fire Department won't be providing separate advisories, it says it will still share information on its Facebook page from the Department of Forestry and the fire hazard rating. Well, there's been slow progress on emptying the freighter that ran aground on the island's west coast in February. The Coast Guard says 5 of the 6 main tanks have been emptied of heavy oil. A total of 172 containers have also been removed, but it's not close to done. The Coast Guard expects the ship to remain there through next winter. But the Coast Guard isn't paying for all this work.
In Canada, we go with the polluter pay principle. MSC, Mediterranean Shipping Company, is the owner of the vessel. They have insurance for the hull and machinery, as well as protection and indemnity, 2 types of insurance. That insurance will be paying out the cost of all hands that are on site, as well as the removal of the vessel.
Former Premier Andrew Furey has now officially resigned as the MHA for Humber Gross Mourne. In a social media post, Furey shared his resignation letter to Premier John Hogan. He says this will leave ample time before the next election to find a new candidate to represent the district. A general election is expected sometime on or before October 14th.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank the incredible and beautiful people of Humber Gross Mourne. It has been a complete honor and privilege to serve you in the House of Assembly. Today, I told the Speaker that I'd be resigning as your member. It's been an absolute privilege, though, to serve you. The trust that you put in me and my family will never be forgotten, and we think of it as our home away from home. Thank you. From my family to all of you, thank you.
Well, the days of trains in Newfoundland are long over, but parts of the Newfie bullet are still used on train tracks to this day. And one train enthusiast from the U.S. took a trip around the world to see what's left of the bullet in Chile.
My father was really into trains. He had taken me to the tracks to watch trains and all that, and I think just being so young, you're so impressed by a big, loud machine, and I just really got into it. So that was my hobby, studying all the different types of locomotives and finding the rare ones, and then I started taking pictures of them because as I got older, they would scrap or repaint and upgrade, you know, the ones that I liked the most. I work for the railroad. I get a full fill of riding in the cab, and I never tire of riding trains. The Lorain, Ohio Library, of all places, had an incredible collection of VHS tapes. And there was one on the Newfoundland Railway, and I was so almost just shocked by the weird designs of narrow gauge engines and all that. I'd never seen anything like it. And so it discussed the Newfie bullet and some history of it all the way up to the abandonment of the railway. And so I thought, man, I'd love to see those engines because they were just weird looking. The hood looks like a road locomotive of the time, but the cab looks like that of a switcher. And they've got that weird skirting on the side. Surfing the internet, found out that they were exported to Chile. And I was like, oh, I'll never get down there. And here we are now. I took a trip to go see them. When the railway was abandoned, Chile was building a new railway. They actually built rails back over a place called Cumbre Pass. And those original rails were ripped out. So as Canada was ripping up a railway, Chile was building a new one. So the engines went down there along with the rail. They actually regard them as some of the most comfortable engines on the roster because some of the other engines that this railroad uses are Australian or from Colombia, and the cabs are a lot smaller. The Newfoundland engines were built, at least the shell was built to standard gauge specifications. The Newfoundland was narrow gauge, and the cabs are roomier. And they're just reliable. They're robust engines, and they refuse to quit. That stuff can be rebuilt over and over and over, and if you just keep up with it, it'd probably run forever.
We'll take a look at these goats in Mobile. 4 new baby goats. Oh, aren't they cute? At the McBride farm, Ida Mae, Cornelia, Henry, and Alberto. The homesteaders say this is their 3rd generation of goats, and it's always a special event. Look at those kids. Aw, some cute love.
Adorable. It is warm out there today. Most people not very happy with the heat. Take a look at these temperatures. Topped out at 30 degrees in St. John's, Terra Nova, and 31 in Badger this afternoon. Lots of humidity with that as well, making it feel more like the mid-30s, even close to the 40s in some cases. We are going to see that humidity stick around as we head through the weekend in most cases. Not nearly as hot tomorrow, but certainly going to see that humidity stick around. We've also got the chance of some showers for your Friday, even into Saturday, talking about the risk of some thunderstorms, and rain will move in as we head through tonight. I'll get into into all those details coming up in a little bit.
This is a volunteer's uniform from the 1977 Canada Games, but it's also an important piece of history for one couple. The two met while volunteering at the Canada Games, and nearly 50 years later, they're still together.
On August the 7th, the day Games organizers and Newfoundland athletes had worked towards for 2 years had finally arrived. On a warm and sunny Sunday afternoon, ceremonies were held at specially constructed Canada Games Park to officially open the 1977 Games.
The opening ceremony saw thousands crowd the field to see the games come to life. Dancers, singers, and an appearance by then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau.
I suppose every province has a flag and a flower and some songs, but you also have a special dog. Newfoundlanders are indeed very distinct, and we from the mainland want to share your pride, want to tell you that we are also proud to be here with you.
Among the throngs of people there showing pride for their province, Bob Porter and Mary Ellen Winter, two townies who volunteered to be part of the monumental event.
I thought, gosh, what a nice experience that would be. And so I threw my name in the hat and I thought, okay, this is great.
St. John's was alive very much at that time because the Games was a big event. I was 24, looking for something to occupy my time, as you would. And it was suggested to me that I, apply for this. So I did.
In 1977, this couple were a couple of strangers.
The big event that I was assigned to at the beginning was the carrying in of the Ontario banner leading the Ontario team at the opening ceremonies. And my future wife, of course, was also a volunteer, and she was assigned at the other end of the pole, so to speak.
The banners had to be straight. They measured from the floor up to where our arms ended, to where we would hold on to the banner. And Bob and I just happened to be the exact same distance. So the Ontario banner was very straight.
As the 1977 Canada Games progressed, so too did the bond over the banner.
I guess people noticed that we talked to each other very easily, and they just noticed that they saw a spark. I guess we didn't at the time, and we just carried on, and I think things just developed from there.
That kind of started a pattern of events, if you will, that ultimately ended in my wife and I dating and ultimately marrying a year later.
At their adopted home in Ottawa, the couple are closing in on their own goals, a golden wedding anniversary.
Summer Games is celebrating, 48 years this year, in the 77 games, and we're on 47.
Mary Ellen saved her volunteer uniform, but she's not really sure why.
I wish I had an answer to that. I really don't. I thought about it afterwards. Why did I hang on to this? Obviously, in my subconscious, there must be something why I hung on to it. I don't know. I guess if I looked at it, I guess it brought back good memories.
It's an outfit that has now been donated to the rooms as part of an upcoming sports exhibit.
Mary Ellen Porter had this whole uniform that she kept from that time period. So we were really excited to be able to tell their story and tell how the games affected this family and how they went on from that to be married for 30 plus years and have kids. And it was all brought together by the 77 games.
On a recent trip to St. John's, Bob got to see that uniform for the first time in a few decades, bringing him right back to the time when he met the love of his life.
It was a pivotal event for us in our lives. I mean, had it not been for the 77 Summer Games, we would probably never have met. We would probably never have married. We would never have had the 3 wonderful kids we have.
The chances of us ever meeting were probably very slim, but this was an event that just happened to bring the two of us together. And, history just happened.
The 1977 Canada Games gave Newfoundland and Labrador a chance to show itself off on the national stage. It also set the stage for 2 strangers to meet, and despite not earning a medal or even competing, to walk away as one of the event's biggest winners. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
It was a hot day out there today. I got a nice walk around the pond in early this morning, knowing that that was my chance to go out before it just became too hot and sticky in order to really want to do anything.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Certainly the time to do it because, yeah, this afternoon, record-breaking temperatures in a lot of places. Let's take a look at where we're sitting now. It's still hot and still humid. 26 degrees right now in St. John's, feels like 33 with that humidity. Even through central Gander at 28 still feels more like 35. And really seeing those temperatures in the upper 20s right through central, even along the northeast coast, your temperatures are still sitting in the mid 20s right now. Same thing for Corner Brook at 25, feeling like 32. Now up across Labrador, temperatures have cooled off now. 11 degrees in Mary's Harbour. Not a whole lot of humidity to talk about, and really there won't be a whole lot of humidity for you until we head into the weekend. But taking a look at what's happening right now, earlier this afternoon, we did see some of those pop-up showers and thunderstorms. They're starting to make their way offshore and will continue to do so over the next couple of hours. Still another cell there just north of Buckins, but that is moving northeast. And like I said, over the next couple of hours, we will start to see that move off. Most of this shower activity and lightning will head offshore within the next hour or so for those of you along the northeast coast. But again, there is a little bit more behind that, which will move through. Now, further east, most of eastern Newfoundland will see showers tonight. Already starting to see some of those for the Burin Peninsula, Canagra Peninsula, and even southern areas of the Avalon. Up through Bonavista now, seeing some of that heavy shower activity. And again, this will continue tonight. Most will see that through the overnight period for a good chunk of eastern Newfoundland. And that's really it. That's where most of the action will be. Except along the south coast, you're still dealing with fog patches, and even the southwest, you may see a few showers through the overnight. And then for Labrador, that rain will arrive by the time we get into tomorrow morning, and that will be around the upper Lake Melville area back through potentially even Lab West as we head through the morning hours. And again, that rain will continue for the eastern portion of the island. Now, temperatures are going to stay mild tonight, sitting somewhere between 14 to 17 degrees. And the winds still generally light, but we could see those gusting upwards of about 20 kilometers per hour for the eastern portion of the island, and they'll be out of the south. And along the Strait, northern peninsula, and all of coastal areas of Labrador, your temperatures are going to drop tonight, only sitting around 6 or 7 degrees. The rest of Labrador between 10 to 11 degrees for your overnight temperatures. Now, into tomorrow, the first part of the day, rain will continue. It'll eventually taper to some showers for the east. Central areas of the island, by the time we get into the afternoon, again, we may see some more pop-up showers and thunderstorms develop again. And then for Labrador, periods of rain will be the story for you, particularly around the upper Lake Melville area, and then further east as well. You may see some of that shower activity as we head towards late day. I do think most of the rain will stay south of Lab West, but as this area of low pressure kind of spins around. But that chance of showers still possible, certainly towards the coast by the time we get into Saturday morning. As far as the amounts go, most of the rain tonight anyway will be somewhere between 10 to 20 millimeters, and the heaviest showers for the eastern portion of the island. And then for Labrador, most of the activity again will be in the upper Lake Melville area, Eagle River, where you could see 10 to 20 millimeters, maybe a little bit more in some of that more consistent rain through tomorrow. So your temperatures in the 20s again, also humid through the day. Not as humid as today, but certainly still humid. Along the north coast there and along the south coast, you're looking at your temperatures much cooler, only in the teens tomorrow, and very similar temperatures for Labrador, with the exception of Lab West, where you'll hover around 20 degrees tomorrow with some sunshine. So let's look at your forecast. Look ahead to the weekend when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. And sticking with the sunny side of the weather, when you're spending time outside this summer, you need to think about sunscreen, even if you can't see the sun. That's the message from a Memorial University professor. He says too many people still believe the sun's UV rays are blocked by all the cloud and fog we get. He's reminding folks why it's important to protect yourself from the sun at all times.
It is a popular belief that since we have very foggy weather, Newfoundland is known for that, but that doesn't mean that we are protected from UV. And study shows, I think published a few years ago in Newfoundland, from 2007 to 2015, the incidence rate of skin cancer increased by around 300%.
Oh, wow.
And if you look at a national figure, melanoma, or one of the skin cancers, mostly by UV exposure, we found almost 6th most common cancer in the country. So it is not that we are protected by virtue of our location and the weather. Mm-hmm. In fact, even a sunny day, we have a lot of UV exposure, but even it is not very thick fog or cloud, even a thin cloud, it doesn't give any protection.
Right, so it really doesn't matter what time of year it is, that we should always be wearing sunscreen.
Sunscreen and sunglass, hat with a wide brim. These are the basic protection. And in summertime, covering our body with clothes like the full sleeve cloth and full trouser, or this kind of cover is very important, particularly when you are doing outdoor activities.
It's now been almost 6 months since the Baltic 3 went aground on the west coast of Newfoundland, but progress is being made on getting not only the containers off the ship, but also the heavy oil that's in the tanks. To get a little update on how things are going, we've got Bruce English, who is with the Coast Guard Environmental Response. So how has the progress been?
Slow, I guess, but as the summer months came on, the weather's gotten a little bit better, and we've seen some good movement of oil off of the vessel.
How difficult is it to get the oil out of the tanks that are there?
It's a challenge for sure. So TNT, the main salvage company, they have heating coils and steam that they put into the tanks. They have to get heat so much, circulate it, and then pump it up to deck. Two heavy types of fuel where one takes about a couple of days to heat, and the other, well, up to a week to heat it in order to pump it.
So that means conditions need to be good enough that they can be there for a couple of days to just get the oil up to temperature and then be able to pump it off.
And there are a couple of times it needs to be pumped. It needs to be pumped from the internal parts of the ship up to the frac tanks on the deck of the Baltic, and then it's pumped from the deck of the Baltic to the frac tanks on the barge. And when the barge frac tanks are full, it goes into Corner Brook. And so far we've pumped all of the oil on board that we've taken off the Baltic onto various MSC ships in the port of Corner Brook.
How long do you think it'll take before you're able to get the bulk of the oil off the ship?
Well, right now, Peter, there are 6 target tanks that have large quantities of heavy fuel. There are multiple other smaller tanks with various types of oil, hydraulics and diesel and whatnot. But of the 6, we're currently working on the 6th one right now, so that's great news.
Okay, so you're getting close to the bulk of that. Let's talk about the containers. How much progress have you been able to make to get those containers off the deck of the ship?
The priority still remains the oil, to get that off, because the protection of the environment is the most important. But in order to access some of the tanks, they need to take off the containers. So on the deck of the ship now, they've removed 172, 300 remaining, and a lot of those are down in the holes beneath the deck.
Okay. You mentioned the environmental concern. We did see some tar balls popping up. Has there been other evidence of any sort of spill leakage? How much is actually making it into the environment?
Of the quantities of fuel in the tanks, none of those tanks are breached. The bottom of the vessel sustained quite a bit of damage when it did ground, so there's holes that have been ripped open. Several of those had fuel in it at one point in time, so there would have been residual in there. Those are open to the environment now, and with the heating of the water this time of the year, as well as the flushing in and out, we're getting some specks of oil that are coming out. Environment and Climate Change Canada, along with ECRC, East Coast Response Corporation, they're doing regular surveys of the beach and shoreline, so they're detecting these spots of oil that normally you wouldn't even see, really. So they're detecting them and cleaning them up as they go.
Do you have a sense of how long it's going to take in order to get the fuel and the containers off the ship?
The exact date, I'd only be guessing. It's a pretty complex situation, as you can imagine. Protection of the environment remains our biggest priority. The vessel will most likely be there through the winter months.
And what is the long-term plan? So once you've got the containers and the oil, it's less of a risk to the environment, but you've still got a big ship sitting there on the beach.
Yeah, well, it's a 207-metre long vessel. Representatives from the insurance company have been on site since the vessel grounded, and they've assured us a number of times, as well as various other groups in the area, that the vessel will be taken out of Cedar Cove, whether it be floated out of there or chopped up and removed in situ.
Speaking of insurance companies, who's picking up the cost for all of this work that's being done to remove things from the ship?
In Canada, we go with the polluter pay principle. MSC, Mediterranean Shipping Company, is the owner of the vessel. They have insurance for the hull and machinery, as well as protection and indemnity, two types of insurance. That insurance will be paying out the cost of all hands that are on site, as well as the removal of the vessel.
Well, thanks so much for giving us an update, and good luck with the rest of the work.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
Meet Mobile's New Kids on the Block. That story coming up on Here and Now.
fallout of the Auditor General's bombshell report on travel nurses' contracts continues. The Registered Nurses Union put out a statement today in response to comments made by the head of the Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services, Dr. Pat Parfrey. He says the NLHS didn't exist when travel nurse contracts were signed, but Nurses Union President Yvette Coffey says that's misleading. She says while the regional health authorities were amalgamated in 2023, the people who signed those private nursing contracts are now senior leaders at the health authority. Those comments follow Denise Hanrahan's report, which found that the NLHS spent millions on agency nurses and expenses and said some of that spending could be fraud. Well, there's been a shakeup in the province's seafood industry. Jeff Loader has resigned from the Association of Seafood Producers. He had been serving as the executive director since January 2023, and he was a dominant voice in the several crab price disputes since then. The ASP is thanking him for his service and says their staff will continue to work as the board considers what's next. Well, the RCMP in this province responded to over 1,000 calls for service during the Canada Day long weekend. They say between Friday and Tuesday, police officers' responses included everything from investigating crimes like assaults, threats, break-and-enters, and various forms of mischief, to performing well-being checks and supporting those suffering from a mental health crisis. There were also more than 60 charges laid for various offenses. Well, Ottawa is moving to fast-track select key energy projects and infrastructure after Bill C-5 became law last week. Major Canadian projects have long been stalled over slow permits and other roadblocks. David Thurton explains where things go from here.
Canada is ready to build big things, something some say it hasn't done for a while.
What we can see is that there's a number of failed projects around the country.
This former top public servant has seen firsthand how Canada has struggled to get things done. From oil and gas infrastructure to transmission lines connecting provinces to clean power. Sources tell CBC News cabinet ministers are meeting through the summer to implement Mark Carney's vision. Now that Bill C-5 has passed, he's able to build on a scale and pace not seen in decades, approving projects up front, fast-tracking environmental reviews.
The real work begins now.
Cabinet will soon come up with a list of energy and infrastructure projects deemed in the national interest, a list that can't come soon enough for some.
That guy needs to be walking around every day in his vest pocket with a list of the 20 projects, pulling it out and saying what's off the rails, what's on the rails.
Another priority, Indigenous consultation. Some have vocally opposed the pace Carney's moving.
Opening up and dialogue between government officials and First Nation governments need to happen. And it's a two-way street. Dialogue happens both ways, not one way ramming something through.
This Inuit-owned corporation, though, backs Carney's plans in hopes of connecting Nunavut to the national grid and high-speed internet, a transmission project that's shovel-ready but lacking financing.
That is the one defining hurdle in the development of those major projects that are 100% Indigenous-led and owned, is the fact that access to capital is hard.
Expectations are high. Carney will get big things built while respecting Indigenous rights. On that front, Carney will host Indigenous leaders here in the nation's capital for summits in about 2 weeks. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, the summer heat draws people to the water for a cool dip, but it also brings renewed warnings about the dangers of swimming. Experts are advising people to be cautious and pay attention in the water. Jennifer Yoon brings us more.
It's just past dawn.
All right, welcome to the beach.
And these Torontonians are braving the chilly waves of Lake Ontario. Some are novices.
I started 4 sessions ago, I'm a beginner.
Today's my first time in open water with waves, so I'm very intimidated, I can't lie.
Others, pros.
There's something really joyful about just being out in the open.
It's not just some summer fun. It's also potentially life-saving.
Let yourself shiver. I want you to let yourself shiver, okay?
The most important thing from a safety perspective is learning about some of the conditions, so the cold, the wind, the current.
On average, 442 people drown in Canada every year. Drownings most frequently happen in natural bodies of water over the summer and among recreational swimmers. Already this year, people have died in the water. At this urban beach in Montreal, 2 suspected drownings in June.
The capacity of you to see through the water, current, and all these factors have an impact on the risk of drowning.
And it only takes a moment before the worst case scenario happens, even for strong swimmers.
The problem is you could have health complications that are not associated with swimming. For example, a heart attack or a stroke.
Some strategies for water safety, he says. Don't swim alone. Avoid alcohol or drugs before swimming and wear a life jacket. For families watching kids in the water, adults must keep their eyes on kids at all times and stay within arm's reach.
There's endless opportunities for water recreation, and we want you to have so much fun in the water and do it safely.
Because learning how to swim safely, even in some murky water, can enrich a life, even save it. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
It's fair to say no one likes finding them in food, but human hair is being used to help grow food in Chile. Mats made out of hair help lock in moisture around the crops. The foundation that makes them says it cuts water evaporation by more than 70%. Mostly collects hair from hair salons and taken into a facility where a machine is used to weave them into sheets. Hair also contains nutrients like nitrogen, calcium, and sulfur that gets into the soil. Local farmers say the method has helped reduce irrigation and also boosted crop yields. Well, earlier in the show, we gave you a sneak peek at some of the new kids at the McBrides in Mobile. Of course, I'm talking about the 4 new baby goats. And even though they've been doing that for a decade, they still find this season is the cutest. Take a look.
We have baby goats. We have 4 baby goats. They're 4 weeks to about 8 weeks old. And yeah, it's the best part of the spring is when the baby goats come. They have very different personalities, and each one has, they know their names. They learn their own names when they're, hey, what are you doing?
Henry, that's this guy here. He's the smallest goat right now, but he's not the youngest. He's actually the 2nd youngest, but he's super cuddly, super lovey. And Ida May, right down here, she's even more cuddly. Put you down, you can come visit. Oh. She's even more cuddly than Henry. There we go.
And then we've got one goat that's just a little bundle of energy, and he just tears around the yard and doesn't stop for anything. And you can pick him up, but he doesn't want to be held at all. And then we've got Cornelia, the red one, and she's the curious goat. She's always the first one to check out something new. Well, you saw there when we were giving them bread earlier, she was the one that came right over and tried a little piece of bread. So even in goats, 4, 6 weeks old, their personalities are there already, and they're all different, and that's part of the fun.
He's still learning. My favorite part is just the socialness of the goats. So we have a lot of visitors come by, and they enjoy just coming up and saying hello to the goats, and it socializes us and gets us closer with the people of our community, and that's one of the unseen kind of advantages of having goats.
We're keeping 2 of them, for the next generation of milking goats down the road, and then 2 of them are going to new homes, basically. We try to adopt our goats out each year to somebody, preferably somebody with a small farm, same as us, somebody that wants a goat for pets or for dairy or something like that.
It's always hard to say goodbye, but every year we get new goats, because every year we get, the cycle continues. So the first year it was really hard, the second year it was really hard, but after that now it's that idea that there'll be more coming next year that kind of keeps you going. Plus this year we get to keep 2, so their personalities will come through.
It's always a big event on social media too, because everybody loves baby goat pictures, right? So, and Lisa's a photographer and loves taking pictures, so taking 500 baby goat pictures and and putting them all up all over the place is part of the fun. But yeah, it never loses its magic. I've been raising baby goats for 10 years now, and still probably my favorite part of the year.
Oh, they're so adorable. But you know what song I've now got stuck in my head? Baby
Okay,
goat
that's
doo
not even a
doo
song.
doo doo, baby goat doo doo doo.
That's not a song.
Never mind Baby Shark.
No.
I want to talk about baby goats.
I love that they ended on that photo.
Oh yeah, it was very cute and adorable.
Makes me want baby goats.
You can't have any. You already have 2 dogs.
I know, I have 2 dogs. They wouldn't like that. Or maybe they'd be best friends. Who knows?
You can dream.
Exactly.
And speaking of dreaming,
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have been dreaming of this nice warm weather.
Yes.
Although
It's been
I
beautiful.
find that it's a very polarizing thing. There's some people who are like, oh, thank goodness we have the nice hot weather. I've been looking forward to this. And other people are like, I can't stand this hot weather.
Yeah.
Give me a cold, mozzie day. I can at least put on a sweater, but I can't get cold after with all the heat.
It's true. It is very polarizing. But I'd say, I'm enjoying the heat for now when
Yeah,
I'm
I'm with you.
inside when I'm inside the air conditioning for a little while. That's nice. So let's take a look at the forecast as we head through the weekend. We have some unsettled weather to deal with, especially on Saturday. Now, there is the chance on Saturday that we will see some thunder or some thunderstorms pretty much across the board. I think through central, west coast, even across the Avalon, there's a chance that we'll see some lightning through the afternoon. And up across Labrador, generally unsettled, but you'll likely see your shower activity not until later in the day, and that will be mainly around Lab West. Now, Temperatures are going to stay in the 20s, upper teens, low 20s. But again, that humidity, we'll see a bit of a break from it, but you'll still feel a little muggy in the air, but definitely not nearly as humid as it has been for the last couple of days. And then across Labrador overall, you're looking at your temperatures in the teens, upper teens, low 20s. The warmest temperatures will be in Lab West, and then along the Strait there and the Northern Peninsula, your temperatures will only top out maybe 10, 11 degrees as your daytime highs. So if you do have any outdoor plans on Saturday, just keep an eye to the sky with that risk of thunderstorms, which some of them could be bring some fairly heavy rain and maybe some gusty winds with it as well. That's thanks to an area of low pressure. That will move off. By the time we get into Sunday morning, I do think we'll still see some lingering shower activity for the west coast through parts of central and most of Labrador. We'll see a bit of a wet day on Sunday, rather. But overall, daytime highs will start to rebound. We'll be back into the low to mid 20s and up across Labrador as well into the 20s, and a little cooler though for the north coast and Lab West, where you'll be sitting in the teens through the day on Sunday. Now the long range forecast showing temperatures Monday, Tuesday will stay somewhere between 19 to 20 degrees, although it does look like it will be a bit more unsettled as we start next week. Then for central Newfoundland rather, you're looking at your temperatures in the 20s as we get into, well, the whole long range forecast there, and some showers by the time we get into Tuesday for central. Western Newfoundland, you should just stay fairly nice with some cloudy periods at times. And then for Labrador, overall, you're looking at your temperatures in the 20s. Nice stretch of weather there Monday, Tuesday. Same thing for Western Labrador with your daytime highs between 22 and 23 degrees. Our weather photo of the day taken on the west coast, Bottle Cove. I have not seen this area and I need to visit it. How beautiful is that?
It is definitely worth a hike. I went out there during my 2020 staycation, and beautiful spot to hike. A beautiful, nice little protected cove, and you can climb up on the hill. Yeah, and not far actually from where the Baltic 3
there you go.
went aground, just south of there.
There you
so,
go.
you know, you can see both all in one visit.
All in one visit, yeah. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, because it shows us other parts of the province, which is nice, you can send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Exactly. We all need new hiking ideas, and it's nice to see a beautiful part of the province. Give you some incentive to get out and explore a little bit.
Exactly, especially this nice summer weather.
Yeah, it's barely July and we've already been enjoying so much nice hot weather.
We've been lucky.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for spending your evening with us. Have a good night.
Good night.